We're seeing that the NSE rose about 36.48 points, its highest level since November 13th, 2008. Which big counters are showing great movements today?
Basically, I think the biggest counter that moved the most today will be your Bamburi. On your top three, they're not really big counters that are there, because you have your Captura Tea, your Samia, and a bit of Ever Ready there. So basically, the big counters are still holding steady. They are moving slowly upwards, as most of them are blue chip stocks, so they don't shoot up with large percentages.
What are the fundamentals of Bamburi that's still working for the company?
Not really fundamentals. Okay, generally, if you look at the economy, we can say Kenya is having a bit of a housing boom or construction boom. So their sector is still in a growth path, though last year it came down a bit in terms of cement production and the demand of it. But you find for the results for this year, if you remove the sale of Athi River Mining from their results, their performance was not that glorious.
And Safaricom, it's showing some good gains. Do you expect the company to sustain these levels for this week?
Yeah, it will hover around between the 530, 540 mark for the whole of the week. Foreigners were more on the selling side today than on the buying side, and for Safaricom, that's normally a cue for you to take profits if you had moved in at a lower price, but when they start selling, the price tends to drop down a bit.
British American Tobacco came out with results. It's down 13% on costs. So by how much has the cost increased for the product?
Okay, for the product, the cost haven't increased that much. They've also just passed on the increase in excess duty and tax to the client. They try to maintain their prices generally so that they can still have a market to sell to, especially with the huge campaigns from the government of smoking areas, banning smoking in these areas. So for a company that went through that last year, I think they did pretty much well.
What was the general operating environment like for BAT?
Apart from the usual high cost of energy that affects every other company across the board, they have a bit of a more hostile environment coming from the fiscal side, where when the governor seems, when the Minister of Finance looks at the places where to increase tax and increase their revenue, they hit on alcoholic beverages and cigarettes and all the like. Alcohol was spared last year, but not really on the cigarette side. So the fiscal environment for them is a bit hostile with all the bans, the smoking areas and stuff like that.
What cost-cutting measures do you think that the company should implement?
Currently, they claim that they're going through under a restructuring of some sort. We hope it's not the usual restructuring we've been seeing in the Kenyan companies. When they say restructuring, you just know that they are firing employees or cutting down on their staff complement. But for them, really, they really can't cut their costs. Actually, I think they need to increase their costs to try and reach a wider market. Not that I'm supporting tobacco, but with the environment that they're operating in, they really need to find ways of expanding outreach of their products and their distribution network.
What's the outlook for BAT for this year?
Growth, I think, will be basically flat. People who smoke are addicted, so they will continue smoking. Their sales will remain up there. They really don't have much competition in the local market. They are kind of like a monopoly. So I believe the results will pretty much remain the same. Nothing extraordinary, an 8%, 10% growth on their top line. If they contain their costs by maybe reducing their staff complement, we might see some growth in their profit after tax.
Well, the company coming out with results, how much of that did you see affecting the stock exchange?
Not so much. Volumes on the counter are still thin. It actually came down, when the results were being announced, it closed at around 200 shillings. It's down close to 2%, 3%, trading at around 190. I don't think people were that amused by the results, though it's noteworthy to see that foreigners actually buying into the counter as local institutions are selling out. But I think the counter will pick up as weeks go by, as people try to move in just to capture the dividends, buying it at a lesser price than the price that it is right now.
Well, it's midweek, and what's the outlook for the stock exchange for this week?
I think it will end up on a high note, not so greatly high, as much as it has hit the 3,666 mark, which I think is the highest since 2008. It's also noteworthy to note that the market is still down 37% on a two-year basis, up about 15% on a five-year basis. The market is getting to a point where most counters are overbought. So we should be getting into a time where the market will start correcting as we get into the following weeks, the next 2-3 weeks, as the reporting season also finishes and nothing really exciting will be pushing the market, and as we get closer to the referendum also for the constitution.
Has your forecast for the Nairobi Stock Exchange changed since the beginning of this year? Not really. My main issue with the Nairobi Stock Exchange currently that it has shot up, but on very thin volumes. And if you notice, even today's trading turnover is controlled by like 5 to 6 counters who control close to 80%. And that has been the trend the whole year. So in essence, our outlook is still a stable growth this year, not exponential. It will recoup some of the losses it has made over the last 3-4 years. But again, the key point again now will be the referendum, because we were trying to look at the earnings season, which really did not spark a bull run in the market. And now we are hoping that the referendum will not break it completely.